Hey, what's up, everybody out there in Facebook land or wherever you're catching the stream? Welcome to today's Untethered Daily with myself, Noah Hammond. This is the live stream where I ask the question, what does our tribe of untethered entrepreneurs most need to hear today for our collective highest good, for the highest good of all other beings involved? The Untethered Entrepreneurs is our tribe of people who are committed to both personal mastery and business mastery, to self-actualization and to taking who you become in that process and turning it into businesses that impact and empower the world. And that's what we're up to here. And this stream, welcome Dina, nice to see you, is here to empower you to do so, and myself right along with. So today, when I ask the question, the words that I heard are, your problems are your pathway. And the simple of this, and it's probably something you've all heard before, is that where the problems are showing up in your life is where you're being invited into greater mastery, into deeper self-reflection, into greater personal responsibility, into new levels of awareness and awakening. That's why the problems are presenting themselves, because they're calling you forth into a higher consciousness and into your higher potential. One of my former clients, great friend of mine and a former mentor of mine, Jeffrey Van Dyke, says that all problems are really fragmented expressions of a whole, complete, and perfect divine truth wanting to emerge. All problems are really fragmented expressions, right? When you zone into this fragmented expression, you see a problem. But what's really there is a whole, complete, and perfect divine truth waiting to emerge, wanting to emerge. And that's why the problem comes and grabs your attention, and that's why your problems are the pathway. Someone else recently posted, I think it was Calvin Witcher, I'm forgetting his name because he's a new recent friend of mine, but he posted like, where your life is still a mess is where you haven't yet committed to self-mastery. And so your problems are the pathway in the sense that whatever is, thanks Dina, whatever's in the way is the way, right? The way out is through. And it's easy to hear this stuff as conceptual, like rah, you can do it kind of knowledge. It's an entirely different thing to actually take full responsibility of the idea and the concept that every problem in front of you right now is an invitation to higher consciousness, and is an invitation to your greater potential, invitation to your expansion, and is fully and lovingly there in front of you to call you forth into your greatness. Like, really let that sit for a second, because sometimes, I don't know about you, but I've definitely had my times of vacillating where it's like, sometimes it just feels like life is kicking your ass, right? Sometimes it just feels like life is impossibly challenging, right? And it's the people who commit to self-mastery that see the greatest challenges, right? It's the people who are willing to get into the arena. It's the people who are willing to get bloodied and sweated and scraped and marred and scarred and to keep going, who actually get to see the greatest challenges. So it's even a kind of a mind trip that, some of the people who take the greatest personal responsibility find themselves in the most challenging situations. And it's only because God will give you everything that you can handle. God won't necessarily give you what you want. He'll give you what you need. And also, God will never give you more than you can handle, right? So it's kind of like when you are up against it, and at those times where you most want to point to something outside of yourself, or you most want to plead for mercy, or you most want to give up, or you most want to give in, or you most want to deflate on yourself, those are the times to remember that, number one, God will never give you more than you can handle, because God loves you. And like a parent loves a child, a parent would never give a child more than they can handle just to see them fail and be miserable. A parent will give them just enough to push their comfort zone, to push their edge, and to become the next level of themselves, right? A loving parent, that's how they roll. And God is the same way with you. God will never give you more than you can handle, right? So that's a meta perspective to understand that no matter what problem is in front of you, it's not more than you can handle, right? And that problem is a fragmented expression of a whole, complete, perfect divine truth, aka your highest potential, wanting to emerge, ready to emerge, and being called forth right now in this moment, being actualized and set into motion via the problem emerging in front of you. And if you can keep these two things in mind each time, your mess can lead to more messes, or it can lead to mastery. Exactly. If you keep these two things in mind, you stay on your master's path. You stay in forward momentum. And the coolest part about it is that as you make faster and faster progress towards acknowledging your problems as opportunities to step into higher consciousness and the next version of yourself and your next expansion, the more these problems don't even really show up as problems. They show up as loving, like, waypoints. Right? So when I see problems now, it's very, like, I'm not going to say I'm perfect. Nobody's perfect. Nobody's like, every time I have a problem, I'm just like cool with it, right? I'm not superhuman, right? But I'll say that 99.9% of the time, I see my problems with curiosity. I see my problems with an openness and a willingness to take, and it's 100% responsibility is the other thing that empowers this process to work every time. It's always asking, how am I creating this? And it's cool to ask that question from multiple layers of your being. So how am I creating this for my human self? How am I creating this for my energetic self? How am I creating this for my soul's expansion? Right? And there's sort of different answers that come in. Right? So you might have a problem with your health. And maybe for your human self, your body is calling for more of your physical attention and love. Right? Maybe from your soul self, your creative essence is calling for greater knowledge and ability to contribute to others, which you will acquire as you go and handle this for yourself. And maybe from your God essence self, the causal body, or the part of you that's one with God, you're just having fun. Right? So there's different things operating in your being because you're a multidimensional being. You have multiple layers to yourself. There's the body, mind, and spirit, you might call it, or you might call it the body, the soul, and your God spark of essence, or your universal connection, or whatever you want to call it. In yoga, they call it the physical body, the astral body, and the causal body. Whatever works for you. But either way, regardless of how you conceptualize it, there's different layers of your being that are all conspiring for your success and for your greatness, and calling problems into being such that you can purge that which no longer serves, up-level the capacity of all layers of your being, and step into higher service. And as you continually show up to that game, there will be a transition point where you go from constantly dealing with problems and stress and limitation to expanding into greater and greater freedom. And eventually, and this is a transition point that I think I'll end this discussion with, but thanks, Kyle, appreciate it, man. There's a transition point at some point where you stop needing to solve problems constantly because there's like limitations in your life that you must overcome. Eventually, it becomes, how good can you let it be? How expansive can you let it be? How easy and flowing and grace-filled can you let it be? Even if you're flowing, it's like hustle and grind and grit becomes divine flow and inspiration and movement. Push becomes pull. Instead of pushing to get things done, you're being pulled towards that which you're here to do. And there's a transition point in the middle. So I just wanted to bring that up because that's where a lot of people get stuck. And I know I was stuck there for a long time, right? It's like you get good at the grit, you get good at the hustle, you get good at taking on challenges like a warrior, and it becomes your MO, it becomes your way of being, it becomes your habitual process. And eventually, though, there's a transition gateway where you move into subtle listening, where problems aren't so intense, where there's really an ask of you to be in a space of grace and guidance and being led. And so if you're stuck at that transition point, I want you to join me on my webinar next Wednesday. I'll drop a link below. It's all about ending the grind while growing your business, growing your impact, growing your reach, doing what you're here to do without the grind, without the hustle, without the stress, without the worry. I'll be talking about that on next Wednesday's webinar. And to close today's stream with an actual action step, what I'd say is take a look at what problem is in front of you right now that in any way, shape, or form you're taking less than 100% responsibility for. What problem are you subtly, if any, becoming a victim to by thinking that it shouldn't be here, wishing that it wasn't here, feeling like it's unfair, feeling like it's not yours, you didn't create it, whatever the case may be, whatever the voice in your head is saying, what is that problem? And how can you take 100% responsibility for it? And how can you acknowledge yourself as the creator of that problem with the knowledge that you created it for yourself out of love for yourself, out of love for your expansion, out of your desire for your greatness to unfold in this life? And just take a moment to journal about that. And you might see something new. You might bring fresh energy into your space. And you might give yourself the opportunity to turn your biggest messes into your mastery, as you said, Dina, and to turn the problem into your pathway, essentially, and to become who you're really here to be. So thanks, y'all, for joining me today. I hope that was helpful. Drop me a comment in the links, or drop me a comment in the box below if there's anything that this brought in for you, and I'll drop a link to my webinar for next week so that anyone who's interested in that can join me live next Wednesday for that. Thanks for joining me, y'all. Much love. Bye for now.